graduated. They go to different school, university.
So I guess there will be a first preference given to the citizens on Nimba when this university is open.
Definitely, that's why we put it here. I want to keep us. I visited the college. In fact, entering Upper City, I saw so many students with placards. And I discovered they were Nimbanians living in a country with fear because they go your business. Okay? With fear. So they only offer BSc there. So if I have a school that offer AA and BSc, this kind of beautiful structure, beautiful foreign equipment, everything, qualified professors. In 2 years, will be master. Okay? They will come here. They will all come here.
But wow, do you have a computer librarian to face a chair until you get import it?
Because I want to make the most modern. Look, the school in Monrovia, we got local armchairs, barely made, but expensive. But the chair we have now from the US, that no college got it here. You can only find similar thing perhaps to Blue Crest. It's about 20, 30 year guarantee. Still.
Okay, let's talk a bit about your country, Nimba, that you happen to be the senator of. Let's talk about a bit about the metal steel money and how properly it's been used and been managed by the people of Nimba.
The government of Ellen being a crook, we never benefited. This government has never given us our money, they clear it.
Wow.
That shouldn't be. So we need to meet as a caucus, Nimba caucus, Bon County caucus, and Grand Baza caucus. We need to meet the president, do something for the new MDA that is coming, so that the money can go straight to the counties. Because we're not benefiting.
But what is the cause? You are not benefiting?
Well, they put the money in escrow account, and government goes there. I think you just heard recently how the government, this regime went to the donor funds. They took, you know what I mean? And so if they can do that, what about Nimba money? Now the first place they went to. So we can't get any benefit.
Have the lawmakers of Nimba been able to gather the citizen and disclose the information to them like telling us right on the TV?
I always say that. Doing preaching on Sunday, I mention it. People play here, they know. They know. No county sitting anywhere in the country right now. Because you go to a county city, you come up with programs, then you access on the money through the PPCC, and carry out development in the district. But nothing like that, all is gone.
We've overheard Tapita Hospital has been looted by the government. Why the administration of Nimba, especially...
Well, the hospital staff didn't tell me. The last time they told me was one CT scan was to be taken away, and the president called me, and I told him, no.
Have you done due diligence since then?
They didn't take it again. But what they did, they allowed one CT scan to be taken away to Phoebe, and they didn't tell me. They had told me we'll stop it. But they took it away, it stayed long. Then when they came to take the second one, that one they said, let tell the woman. Then the president called me, and then the VP called me, and I said, I think we should take money and buy it. It's about $75,000 or $100,000. That's what we can buy. So we take money from Nimba, dismantle Jackson Doe, to build other hospital. So I said no.
You supported this government with your heart, and this government paving roads.
My man, if we didn't support the government...
What about from here to the referral hospital?
If we did not support this government, Ellen was bent on doing what she wanted. That's the truth. Before the elections, Ellen had secret meeting in her house with all the magistrates from the counties and the commissioners. I brought about this on the air, but nobody knew it, and nobody wanted to take part with me. So I kept quiet, because each person thought it was in their favor. Cummings thought maybe that it was in his interest. Maybe Bronskin thought the same way. Maybe Burkhardt thought the same way. But when she went to the UN after the meeting, and she told the UN that she wanted generational change, that one they came to themselves, because we are all old people, right? So that one they realized that it was going to be a different person, not us. So when it came, we had a meeting in Ganta. I called a meeting. All the opposition parties, I sponsored the meeting. That the person who will be in the league, we should support. And our objective was to get UP out. But when Usan and George were in the league, other group refused to join. They went to join the very UP we sent to kick out the power, boycott. So I kept my promise. You must be a promise keeper. A demonic character will not keep promise.
So how do you feel about working with this government, in this government as well?
It's my making. I gave my support for 6 years, and I'm watching keenly, and I've asked all opposition parties to disregard demonstration, December 1st or whatever. Let us all sit and watch and see how we move toward 2023. The re-election of this government will depend on the dividend of democracy that Nimba County will reap. Because the road here is not us. It was initiated by Ellen. We know that. The Logwato in this one and the Ganta Yekepa, it was initiated. But what we're doing now is to remind them that what the previous government signed, please live by it. So we didn't sign it, it was signed before. So what we want is prioritize Nimba, relocate the Ganta, the Sanakori Hospital from the train track, do the relocate the market or renovate the market in Sanakori, do the market in Ganta, you know what I mean? These are projects we must benefit from. Don't come to talk about Logwato Road because of the past government.
Before we take leave of you this afternoon, you have contested for presidency 2 times in loss. 2023 is coming, and you might be contesting for senator. So how are we going to compromise that you still have the hope of contesting for presidency?
No, I will go to the Senate. Because you know what? I see this. 2023, it will be Rick.
Rick?
Yes.
What makes you think so?
Prophetically speaking, I'm a man of God. I'm a man of God. It's not something I'm seeing by this government. I say it will be Rick.
By this government?
By this government, to remain in power. Okay? And that will bring the government and the civilians into confrontation. So if I run for president, it is Rick, I will lose both the Senate and the presidency.
So did you see the end of that vision? What will happen if it is rigged?
I see some confusion between civilians and people. I see more demonstration, I see more chaos. I'm a man of God.
The citizens are crying every day, Liberia is high. Why are all the lawmakers?
If it don't happen, what I tell you, don't believe me.
Why are the policy of putting in place to make things good for the citizens who put you in offices?
Well, we do our best, we advise, but you cannot take the horse to the river and force it to drink. Because if I were president, I would prioritize salaries. Salary put food on the people's table. It made a civil servant to buy things to the market, money goes around. But look how we the senator 4 months, we haven't gotten paid. The first of this kind of thing.
Are you disappointed?
We're going back to Taylor's Day.
Are you disappointed?
I'm supposed to be disappointed when my people are crying. Copper rent in Nimba County expensive, burger rent high. So if you want us to vote for you, we are prepared. But the first time we cry, then we must continue to cry on the second time. That the cry will continue until 2023. It will make us change our mind because I won't be stupid to come to Nimba and say, let me vote for the simple. They will throw me off. They will throw me off.
So you feel comfortable of being senator?
Yes, what God said, I will be a man. Because I tell you, there was massive rigging during this going election. My school, look at my children here, we can see. My wife and my children, we went to my school to vote. I didn't get one vote from there. So my wife betrayed me. Eh? I betrayed myself.
But did you take an issue to the National Elections Commission?
I care less. I know what happens, so I keep quiet. You see? I mean, that's what happened. It was surprising. It happened 2011, where we went to go vote Coca-Cola factory. All my people, all my supporters. Look, I went to Kakatown. I locked the place up 4 hours. No car coming, no car going. I went to Cotton Tree. I went to King George, Cape Town. In the night, people waited for my president 12 o'clock in the night. I went to Davidstown. People want real change. Yes, because I'm a former general, I'm a politician. When I tell you this, I do.
If you have to become president, what could be the difference you're going to make apart from being a senator right now?
I will make one key difference, decentralize the country, let the people elect their officials to govern them. Though you are elected democratically, but if you have the dictatorial norm, that means to centralize government, not to decentralize it, then democracy and dictatorship can't work together. Because the promise we made to decentralize, it should be done legislatively. I will send a bill to the House and have it done.
Okay.
of international law committed by my unit at the time, I would like to say it was wrong, and I would like to ask the commission, like those who individually went out and carried out these ugly acts should be brought forward, and then let them have their day in court or let them have their day in a hearing. But as to my personal involvement in any act of abuse, human rights abuse, I've not had that day yet.
Did the ATU have a structure?
Yes, we had a structure.
Can you speak to that? Who was the head, the assistant, and how and what was your level as training officer?
The ATU structure was formulated similar to the British style of the military, where we had a general officer commanding, referred to as the GOC. And then after the GOC was a deputy general officer commander who was referred to as the DGOC. From that point, we came down to our G4 sections, the G1, G2, and as far as G4.
Up to the time you served the ATU, can you tell us the strength of the ATU?
According to our roster, we were at a strength of 1,500, equivalent to 2 battalion size.
2 battalion. Up to the time from the formation of the ATU, can you fill in these positions? The general officer in command, who was the general officer in command? How many officers in command the ATU had? Then the deputy?
When I came and joined the unit, General Momo Jiba was the general officer commanding. And after he left, General Jason Winning then became the general officer commanding, up to the time of the ceasefire, which brought in the transitional government.
It was General Winning, the last person.
Yeah, General Winning was the last general officer in command.
And what role did Chucky Taylor play in the ATU?
Charles Chucky Taylor was just a military advisor. Now, as a military advisor, he could assume leadership of any of the outfit, be it the ATU, be it any of the militia units, because he served as a military advisor to the government at the time.
Was he the only military advisor, or there was one before him?
Pardon me, sir?
Was he the only military advisor, or was there another one before him?
We had other military advisors. We had one General Nelson. I can't remember the first name, but General Nelson was also one of our military advisors.
Let's talk about training and recruitment. How were officers recruited? Were they of a particular stock? Were they former fighters? Or there was an open application process where able-bodied men were recruited into the ATU?
No, our recruitment process was not open as such. People that came in were either recommended or personally selected.
Recommended by former members of the MPFL, by the CRC, or?
They were recommended by other securities agencies and heads.
Recommended by the head of security agencies?
Yeah, from other security agencies.
Was there a particular training base?
Yeah, there was. We had a training base in Bon County, Batala.
Batala?
Yes, Bon County, Batala.
Can you speak to the nature of the training?
The men were trained in the skills of close quarter combat. They were trained in the skills of VIP protection. They were also trained in the skills of guerrilla tactics. As you can remember, sir, during that formation, the government was on a very serious attack from foreign troops out of Guinea and Sierra Leone. So therefore, that necessitated the training of adequate troops to be able to respond to those threats.
So the training was necessary to respond to existing threats at the time in the country?
Affirmative.
Besides yourself, were there other training officers?
Yes, we have other training officers, sir.
Can you name some of them? Were they Liberians? Were they non-Liberians?
On my watch, they were all Liberians.
Can you name some of them?
We had Jason Winnie. General
Again,
Jason.
please?
We had one General Jason Winnie. He's also a Liberian.
Winnie, okay.
We had Washington Delamo. He's also a Liberian.
Delano?
Delamo.
Delango.
Yeah, he's also a Liberian.
Washington Delango.
Yeah, he's also a Liberian.
Okay.
And there was a fourth guy, I've forgotten his name, but he was also a Liberian.
Are they all alive?
Besides one, which was Jacob Kaiser. But the rest of the guys are still with us. Still alive.
You said that violations and atrocities by ATU are regrettable. They were not necessary at the time. Can you tell us what was done to make sure that those violations were not repeated? What was done to mitigate it? Or was it a concern at all to the establishment?
It was a major concern. We put in certain measures to curb those ugly acts whenever they occur. But then again, we were being very much pressure because we were fighting on several fronts. So whenever those information came out, the soldiers responsible were reported to the provost marshal, who was then responsible for disciplining the disgruntled soldiers or soldiers found in violation of those laws.
So, was there ever an occasion where a member of the ATU went out of bounds and was reprimanded, as you are suggesting?
Yeah, there were cases. Even though I did not follow those cases because it was not my duty at the time as a provost marshal, but I did hear of those cases and that those persons responsible were brought to books.
And what were the crimes or violations that were committed at the time, if you remember?
Well, we were fighting a guerrilla warfare at the time, so some of those cases that we had were cases that probably involved like taking a bag of rice from a village or taking some cassava from a village and what have you.
Is that all you can recollect?
At this moment, yes, sir.
Who was the provost?
The provost at that time, we had several provosts. Cannot pick up his name at that time. He was at the time. I need a moment to reflect on the time because the unit we kept changing. We were a very dynamic unit, so we kept changing those persons responsible for that particular area so as to not have one thinking that he had total control over that particular section.
In the beginning, you said ATU was a legal body.
Yes, sir.
Why did you say so?
Well, sir, it is the prerogative of the commander-in-chief and the head of state to decide his or her personal safety. At the time, the commander-in-chief thought it wise that he should have, or whoever at that time thought it wise that the formation of an outfit that would be directly responsible for his safety was needed. That's why the unit was created.
I'm concerned because there were a lot of outcry about the legality of the ATU. And you have just suggested that it's the prerogative of whosoever is commander-in-chief to set up any outfit. But at the time we had several security outfit already, the special security services included. The argument then was that the national legislature did not establish the ATU as a legal entity, so it operated as the private army of the commander-in-chief at the time. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong, sir.
Okay.
For the fact that the House sat there and allowed it to happen. So therefore, I think that the leadership of the House then should be brought here to explain why they allow such.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners will ask some questions to the Chief.
My name is D. Kankala. I taught school for 4 years while attending the University of Liberia. I worked for the National Social Security and Welfare Corporation as claim assistant. I served as general coordinator to the People's Redemption Council from 1980 to 1981 December. I served as national director or executive director for the National Readjustment Commission from 1993 to 1996-97. By profession, I'm a social worker. I come here today, Mr. Chairman, when I first got your letter to appear before this commission, my initial reaction was not to attend. I had a conversation with a number of people discussing the invitation I got. I got uncomfortable for a number of reasons. I started to ask myself, why is this commission drawing a line on 1979? Why? But as a professional social worker or clinician, I said, you know, the entire population of our country was dislocated. I said, you know, our country is polarized. I said, you know, there's something not going to that commission will cost me. And Mr. Chairman, as I sat in this chair this morning, I passed by the Greater Street office of power. I went to the mass grave of those young people that were buried. And I said to them that I'm coming to TRC to tell their story. To tell their story. And so please, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, and those of you who want to join me, please let me just say a silent prayer to those young people, to those men and women who now laid on Greater Street. May their soul and also rest in perfect peace. Amen. Chairman, my parents are originally from Kabade, southeastern Liberia. Sino County is a very poor county, very poor place. Mr. Chairman, where I come from, for over 150 years, I even say up to this morning, there's no school, sir. There's no safe drinking water. No roads. No clinic. Sometimes I get the impression that where I come from is not on the map of Liberia. That those people that live there, and please let me hurry to say this, the situation of my place is the situation of thousands and not millions of people of Liberia all over this country. No light, no water, no school, no roads. I'm a product of their poverty. I'm a product of their poverty. And so, but there's something else you need to know, Mr. Chairman, a member of this commission. In southeastern Liberia, between 1888 and 1900, our culture was intact. The institutional framework of our traditional society were intact. Benjamin J.K. Anderson in 1888 made an expedition, and he reported that if the government of Monrovia did not reach out to the hinterland, the chances of losing out would be very high. And so come the birth of the Liberian Frontier Force. 1904, Liberia Frontier Force. Liberia Frontier Force came into being to enforce the law of the Monrovia government. A government that had no link, no clue about the life, the condition under which we existed. And so the Frontier Force came and they invaded our privacy. They invaded our trust. Yes, they did. They did, my friend. My great-grandfather was paramount chief then. When the Frontier Force came, they wanted to pay tax. They wanted to enforce tax payment. Yes, they wanted the poor people who have no job, no income, to pay hot tax. And if you did not pay the hot tax, there's something in the South people call it tagbe. They tie it on your crazy bone and they scrape you naked and lay you in the sun before your wives and children. My grandfather, my friend, decided he would draw the line in the sand. The line was drawn. family, Mr. Chairman, took on the Liberia Frontier Force. Several lives were lost. But nobody cares to recall that. They didn't come from Cruiserville. They didn't come from Atherton. They didn't come from Millsbury. They came from Kojai. They came from Pinetown. They were from southeastern Liberia. They couldn't read. They couldn't write. So who cared? They know about it. Why should somebody pay attention to some little Yidam, some little native person? We just kill them. Yes. But you know something? Grandfather fought them. And then they set Kojai on fire. Over 1,000 houses, they burned them to the ground. And my parents fled Kabadi. And the story I'm telling you is the story of thousands of young people that came together in 1976. My story is the story of thousands and thousands of young people. We recruited in Nima, all over Nima. We slept in every town in Nima. We recruited in Bon County to build power, even though the government said it didn't exist. We recruited in Lofa, in every town, and the government said no power man here. We recruited in Bassa. I remember the superintendent said, Mr. President, when you come here, you will war and you will not see a fly that look at power. Yes, we did. But so what happened to my parents, and what happened to thousands of parents that were from the indigenous background? What happened to them? These people, what brought us here, Mr. Chairman, I show you, be a lawyer, you know, you agree with me, it's power. How power is allocated and how power is exercised. That what brought us here. Power. And the reason I'm putting emphasis on power, Mr. Chairman, power is pivotal in the allocation of goods and services. So here was the government instructing the Liberian Frontier Force, knowing full well it has no basis in the allocation of goods and services. It did not understand the aspiration, the hopes, the dreams of the poor people. Yet they claim to represent them. And the native people supposed to accept that. Native men supposed to accept that. To you young people who sit in your Thai workshop this morning, wherever you're doing, wherever you're discussing, to all of the young people throughout this country, I'm dedicating this conversation to you. My son, born 1982, he's now 26. He works at General Electric in Connecticut, USA. In a conversation, I was telling him that the TRC invited me. He said, but what do they call you for? How come they kill granddaddy? Somebody call somebody when they kill granddaddy? I said, no, Con. Your granddaddy, nobody. He nobody. And thousands of parents that were killed, they're nobody. He said, how come? I said, because they were natives. You got no right. Read the interior regulation, my friend, promulgated by Arthur Barkley. Read it. You guys have access to resources. Read it. What did that regulation say? Native men get no right, in essence. So we can come, we send frontier folk there, they beat you up, and then I'm sure a lot of you in this hall, maybe you heard it someplace. Between 1920 and 1930, my parents, among several parents in the southeast, were sent to Fanani Pool. They were forced on slave labor to Fanani Pool. They get no right to be here. We can send them anywhere. We make money off of them. Fanani Pool. Yeah. How come they're supposed to be here and we sitting here trying to look for some money? So we ship them to Fanani Pool. The other day I heard Madame say she's in charge of history. Please document that for so my son will see it too. Because he needs to see it. I come to this conversation standing on the high shoulders of Boyman Fambule, Oscar Quia, Chia Chipo, Tobana Chipote. You know something? I was in the 11th grade when I saw Tipoti when he came to do this kind of work. This guy had a PhD already. Imagine 1971 with a PhD. This boy could have made any amount of money in this country. He could have. When I entered the university, I saw the young guy. They say he just came. He has a PhD, Amos Sawyer. These boys were fresh, smart people. You will ask yourself, but why are they doing this? These guys could make some money, man. The first time I saw Boyman Famule was this Ministry of Justice as a young man in AGM school, right on this place. His father was arrested because he had few socially boats and some boat in a house. And I saw this kid, tear rolling. I said, damn, that's my friend. That's my friend. It could have been my father. But I said, yes, that what happened to my father? I was born in a place in Sino they call Cedar. When the boy Kojai, my grandfather took all of us. He took his family. There was a man called Amos Witherspoon. He was social justice of Liberia. He's from Sino. And they told a story that if my grandfather went to Amos Witherspoon, that nobody would touch him. He and his family. I guess as the good Lord will have it, Witherspoon was in Sino. The code was not in section. And my grandfather met him. He entered into a contract with a social justice Witherspoon. And what was the nature of the contract? My grandfather agreed that every year he and his family would make farm for Mr. Witherspoon. And up to the time of his death, from 1920 to 1961 when he died, my parents were making farm for Mr. Witherspoon because he gave us shelter. And what happened to my grandfather or my grandparents, I want to say successfully, that was the plight of several families throughout our country. My family knew a thing or two about political repression. And so I grew up, all of us grew up learning the story, what happened. I I agreed to come here, Mr. Chairman, because I want to talk about what happened. I don't want to editorialize the conversation. I want to tell you what happened. So, TRC sent this letter, and I started to say, but why TRC though? Why are they doing this? I said, after the execution in 1980, in the cycle of the True We Party, they believed there were certain people who initiated, who engineered the execution of the 13 people. And those people must be killed at all costs. That conversation from 1980, I say up to today, they believe there are certain people who led to the execution of the 13 and the Mogadivi. And this country was looking so nice. This place was so beautiful. Until the native children, the good for nothing children who now succeeded anyway came here. We were doing very well. But let me say to you, to those of you young people who sit in the Atai shop or at the University of Liberia, at Cottington, all over this country, when they say Liberia was nice, you know what they're talking about? Monrovia highlights. The University of Liberia, the only state school, the school open, so it's all right. So where they coming from to say this place is not nice? Yeah. Along Monrovia was nice, Liberia was nice. But I had a nice surprise for them. Nice surprise for them. I beg to differ with those who say Liberia nice. Because of my family's opposition, natural resistance to the useless use of power, we pay attention to governance. My family did. My parents could not read or write, but the only thing they were interested in was what government was doing. And our case study was Sino. My family followed the activities of government on a daily basis. And in their opinion, the government did not perform. And they concluded they have no obligation to this kind of government, this thing that doesn't work. My parents would talk about the Southern War. They would talk about the Grable War. They would talk about the fighting Sino. And my grandfather would say, this country will never ever turn the corner until we have our own children in the house. I didn't understand what he meant when he said in the house. He was talking about the House of Senate and House of Representatives. My grandfather, and I show many grandfathers from the four corners of this country, believe the only way we make progress until we send our own people into the House of Legislature. That as long as we fail to get our people into the House, we'll not do well. I heard that conversation until my father passed. My grandfather said something else, Councillor. Whenever the native people had issue in Sino, there was nobody to represent them. Nobody. And so my grandfather, you will say to all of his grandchildren, the seven people they call lawyer Cantana. Cantana. Yes. My grandfather said his children must go to law school. And I'm talking over 50 years. This guy who can't read, who can't write, was insisting that his kids learn the law. And so our family, my family, and the family of many throughout our country send their children to law school too. So that when something goes wrong, they too can have someone to run to. My family raised few lawyers. They did well. Few of the guys are financial analysts. They did well. But my parents trained me to oppose this thing that doesn't work. That was my assignment. My assignment was to oppose this thing that doesn't work for everybody. And so they told me how David Coleman was dragged, was killed. They would talk about Nancy C. Brownell, this lawyer, this indigenous man. My family would talk about D2L, this knowledgeable man, well-learned. They would talk about Mariah. I went home in 1968 and I had a conversation with my father. I told him I saw family, they were beating him. Henry Boyman family senior. And he said, my son, they have always beaten our good people. They try to subjugate them. That's what they have always done. He said, but you know, you got to keep on. You got to grow. Don't worry about what happened to family, but you got to go to school. When you go to school, maybe one day somebody will get lucky. And all the poor people children that are learning book, one day somebody somewhere will succeed. And the condition of the poor people will be better. I had a conversation with my father in 1968. My grandmother would say, we fought war, we fought the people. The people, they kill, they burn our home. And she would say, but you know, the thing that used to give me trouble, that I don't understand. I wonder they get family too. Because they just come in a town and shoot people and they burn a place. Do they have family too? Why am I talking all of this? The men and women who formed the Progressive Alliance of Liberia, that's their life. The life of their parents, their parents' parents. And then, you know, my father said, you know, he decided to take me from Sino. First, he encouraged my big brother to come to Monrovia to go to LU. Because Grandpa said he got to be the lawyer. He got to learn law. So he came to Monrovia to learn law. As a good lawyer, we have a Councillor S. Edward Carlo became a very good lawyer. Became a very good lawyer. He lived the dream of our grandfather. So that poor people from that side of Sino can have somebody to run to too. My brother graduated from the law school in 1968. He started to work for Richie Henrys. Richie Henrys. Speaker of the House. He was Speaker. He was loyal to all the major concessions. What a contradiction. What sort of representation is that? But my brother worked from 69 to the date of the coup for Richie Henrys. Let me say quickly, Liberia became a one-party state. One-party state. That's the context in which we're having this conversation. One-party state. The True We Party of Liberia was the only place that you dish out power, you make money. If you well behave, they reward you. True We Party. In 1970 came, the True Party, they will arrest some opposition person here, they will intimidate them, they will rape their wives, they will rape their children, all over the place. If they believe you are opposed to the party, you will never get any blessing. You'll be very lucky if you get a job to teach, because teaching was the only thing they could get natives, you know. Few of the other ones that fell through the crack, you know, who became superintendent here and there, they fired them in little or no time. They fired them. It's a culture thing. It's a culture thing. So I saw 1973. I saw Prince Brown. I saw William Bade. I saw William City. They were soldier. Good men. The security agencies of our country they decide if you're in politics that you live or you die. They can plant any information in you, on you, in your house, on your family, and then no way you can change that. It sticks. And so I saw Prince Brown, I saw William Bade, William City. True We Party said they want to overthrow them. Then I saw a very good gentleman around 73, 74. This gentleman will write about the practices of government. They call him Albert Port, the goblin business. William R. Talbot became president in 1971. By 1973-74, the Talbot family have taken over major business institutions in the country, including the rubber plantation of the place of my birth, Sino County. They had taken over everything. The Progressive Alliance of Liberia came together around that time, 1974-75. Gabriel, Bacchus, Matthews, Oscar, Jai, Quia, Samuel, Polyvius, Jackson, Thomas, Weweyu, Fedre, Baz, Gologai. You young people. They decided, you know, something is not right in our country. And there are many other people, you know, their brain is old now. Brain is old, so just in case I did not recall your name, please pass me. Give me a pass. It's not deliberate. It's not deliberate. The guys came together and said, you know, something is not right. Maybe we need to do something. And the first order of business by Powell in 1975 was to constitute themselves into something like a research thing, a think tank group, research policy issues, and make recommendations to government. They soon learned very quickly that this thing will not work. True We Party does not respond to some letter by some child sitting up in New York or Washington, D.C. No. The group in the United States decided that they will publish their own newspaper, and their focus will be the government of Liberia, the workings and the lack of it. And whenever the edition is produced, they will smuggle that paper throughout the country. In 1975, while at the university, somebody walked to me one day. I don't remember that person, but he gave me a stack of the revolution. He said, "My man, take the paper and read and do whatever you want to do." I took this paper. I fell in love with the writings. Let me say quickly, I was member of Moja then. I was a member of Moja. Everything my parents told me, Moja began to confirm it. They start to tighten my identity, my values, my beliefs. Moja. But when I read that paper from Powell, the paper indicated that Powell wanted to form an opposition party to True We Party. I said, damn it, this is what my grandfather said we should do. My grandfather told me we should oppose these people. That these people will never ever change the condition under which our people lived. I was excited, blown away. And they had some form in our edition for you to, fill a form, and I did. I filled a form. At the time, I was Secretary General of the Liberian Student Christian Council based in the YMCA. I grew up in the YMCA as a kid. I'm a product of the Grey Y. I'm a product of the High Y. I went through the Model United Nations General Assembly thing. I went through the National Older Boys Conferences from 7th grade through 12th grade. I thought the YMCA did pretty well with me and with a lot of other young people. They prepared us. I'm not even going to talk about student government. From 6th grade up to the time I left high school, I was president of somebody, some class, some student council. My skills were grown. I was good to go. And then when I entered the university in 75, I became chairman of the All Student Allied Party. My skills again were being beefed up. But there's something my father told me, and I must share with you. He always advocated fairness, objectivity. And so through my work, I try to be fair to people. Even if I'm opposed to you, I try to see reason in your own advocacy or lack of it. 1975. Mr. Matthew dropped me a note through the YMCA stating that Paul was considering coming to Liberia. Say, whoa, there that war back. So all my men there, we will crack jokes, say, damn man. True body people will kill people. And we will laugh. But we laughed at something that we later on became to know that it was not a joke. It was serious business. From 1976 to 1980, we talked to every major family in this town to find out what it is about doing political thing. Every family, every individual we talk to in this town will say, no, don't do this. No, don't do this. They will say, can you just find somewhere to go? You in college? Why you want to do this? You will bring trouble to the family. True, we party? What? And Matthews finally landed here with Samuel Polyvius Jackson, Oscar Jai Quia, to meet with President Talbot to impress upon the president a member of the True We Party that we're ready. We're ready to organize our party. We informed the president that we are organizing our party on 3 basic principles. And one of those principles was, I guess, well, we made some changes today, but the issue we raised with True We Party, they are alive and well today. But here was the issue we raised. We indicted True We Party on 4 counts. Here they come. Failure to develop a comprehensive educational system that will have ensured all Liberian children of a brighter future. That was count 1. Count 2, we said, failure to provide the infrastructure necessary for the country to make progress. Infrastructure. How you make progress, they play close. The 3rd count, we indicted the True We Party. We said, failure to develop agriculture program that will enable our people to ultimately become self-sufficient. On the 4th count, we indicted the True We Party. We said, failure to create a political apparatus of inclusion, indicative of social and economic justice and equality. Those were the 4 counts. We felt that this country will never ever make progress as long the school system is not correct. Throughout my lifetime, my parents, they're farmers. That's all we live on. They don't have any job organized, they work for themselves. But the food we produce, we couldn't sell it because there was no road. Where we live in Sino, how much food can you put on your head to take to Greenville to the marketplace? We couldn't. How come some people in this country believe only they have the brains and only they can make decisions for you, and that you are not capable to decide what is good or what is bad? On those reasoning, the Progressive Alliance of Liberia was given birth, Mr. Chairman. We decided that the cornerstone, our cornerstone, that the Progressive Alliance of Liberia, that later on became the Progressive People's Party, will bring people to the process through the primary system. We said, and I showed a number of people in this room, on this panel, we agree with me, that true we parties selected people through the caucus system. They go in the back room, smoke their cigar, drink their wine, drink their gin, and decide on somebody. We decided that we'll contrast that approach. That approach will not help our country. And so we adopted the primary system. The second pillar we've advocated was that the country needed to be decentralized. We needed to reorganize the country. We argue that if you reorganize the country, that one, you will bring credit. You will strengthen the credit institutions. And poor people will have access to financial institutions to get whatever they wanted to do so that they can do it. And do it without hindrance. We argue that the poor people of Liberia have good credit in paying banks. That the American Liberians have no credibility. Every bank they have put together, they have stolen the money from there. And we believe the poor people, if they credit from a bank, that bank has a future. The third piece, we say, Liberia will have to socially engineer progress. We have to craft progress. We have to define the boundaries and limits so that our people will make progress. We said in power that this country deserves better. We deserve better. But of the three things I named that made power different was food. Food. Those of you who are learned people here, and throughout this morning, throughout the country who hear this voice, what did D2S say about food in 1944? What did he say? Go read it. This commission has asset, you have partners that have money. Ask them to do the research. 1944. What did they say about food? Here's this country that eat rice 4-5 times a day and have no program to produce it. What kind of business is this? What's wrong with us? What is wrong with us? And the commission say Liberia problem from 1979. Mr. Chairman, please forgive me. For whatever reason you drew the line, it's unacceptable to me. It's unacceptable to me, oh man. I'm sorry. How can you ignore the history, the banditry, the atrocity in this place, and you draw a line on 1979, Mr. Chairman? How dare you? You are a lawyer, my friend. You are a lawyer. How can you? How can you let them? You guys have your records. I mean, you have good record, man. Let me put on my social work cap for a moment, please. And I put on this cap, Mr. Chairman, because I hear people talking about apology. What is the mission of this commission? What is the mission? What's your focus? Because it will give us understanding, sir. Because all the debate that's taking place, you're not reacting to it. You've been sucked into some false perception, sir. And that's sad. That's sad. That's sad. As As a social worker, Liberia coming all of at least the last 14 years of war, your focus. The 14 years of war, in fact, has separated our families. This war reduced our values. This war broke down the institutions. The institution of the family, culture, economic, even political. Not only that, sir, we lost over 300,000 people. They were raped, Mr. Chairman. My father was killed because you were Kankala's father, Mr. Chairman. The only crime he committed, he born this crazy fella. The ministry, 1976. Paul came. We were clear what we wanted to do here. When we came here, those of us who were on the ground, the guys that came from the States, Blamo Nelson, Matthews, Alfonso Kawa. DK Wonselier graduated from Cuttington with a math degree. The son of a chief. This kid, I've seen pretty bright people. DK Wonselier, very bright kid. We were trying to put together power. And we thought that those of us who were here, I never went to America, I'll be here. My parents brought me from Sino 1962. 9 years old, 1962. Everything I learned through those years, up to 1983, was here. I'm one of those that you can call locally groomed. I went to school only here. Know nothing about nothing, communism, socialism, come from communist country and all that stuff. I grew up in this town. I learned to study this town. I told you the YMCA did me some good. I visited every county before I graduated from high school. Every county. YMCA, they were doing national older boys conference. They were doing some vacation thing. They were always doing something. The national student movement, Charles Minor, now Liberia ambassador, I understand they recently replaced him to Washington. Charlie carried us everywhere. Before I came out of high school, Mr. Chairman, I've seen our country. You didn't have to tell me. I was all over Lofa, all over Maryland, all over the place. The YMCA were training us to take over leadership. And so they exposed us. The girls guys, the Boy Scout, all of these, what you now famous, you call big, those are you civil society people, you call civil society, they were there those days. Their emphasis at that time was training young people to be leaders. I got lucky. If you recalled, at that time they were training young people to compete, to drill in the streets. You know, we school drill best and do this and do that. They were talking about meet the challenge. We students were smart. saying this to say, every day I wake up, I walk through the streets, I see our young people all over this place. And I ask myself, so what do we have to do when we deal with this kid who's selling biscuit? 6, 7 years old selling biscuit in the street. What will his life be after 30 years? The conversation we're having is about 30 years, right? What we did in 1979 or didn't do. What will Liberia be like 30 years from today? All of you, my friends, who are sitting at a Atai shop at a different radio station, let me give you an issue. What will Liberia be in 30 years? That's the conversation you should keep with our young people. And the reason why it's important, 56% of our population is below 21. That's my social work cap. 56%. If you say 3.5, if you say 4, if you say 2.8, whatever you say our population is, 56% is under the age of 21. My time, they used to say the growth rate of Liberia was 3.3. They say we're more the fastest, nation, population growth. 3.3. Now, please forgive me again, Mr. Chairman. Let me raise another question. What is the purpose of doing all these studies? The first national development plan I saw as a young kid in college who were curious, who were anxious about the future, was a plan produced by William R. Talbot. The first national development plan of Liberia was produced in 1976 by Mr. Talbot. In St. Patrick, we used to say, so we ate the book. We read it, we analyzed it, and we did not see the connect between the policy formulation and the resource allocation to make the policy. So you read a very nice book. We have one program in the parlor of the executive mansion, and then we clap, we drink some wine, and we go home. 1976. So Paul had a document to work with. The president 4-year development plan, 1976. We key on the implication of that plan on food. We did not see a connection. There was disconnect between the policy and what they say will come. They all come. There's no connection. When you set goal, people who are in this business, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission will provide therapy over the next 10 years. So they set a goal. But Truth and Reconciliation Committee or Commission must define some small steps so that we can get to that goal 10 years. If those steps, if there are no steps to take us to that goal 10 years from now, somebody can conclude, say this one here is a joke. We read the 1976 plan of the True We Party. It was a castle in the air. No pillows. No pillows. And for us, it was unacceptable. So since our interest, now please understand, our party, our movement, we said we put in place the primary system. We want decentralization. We want to make sure that Liberians get in the business of creating capital for themselves and for our country. For us, we could not compromise any of those three. Create indigenous capital. Process a policy, because you got to understand something. And some people will argue, those of you sitting in the Atai shop, they will argue with you. Liberia is a unitary, it's unitary, they're not federal. How can that all men they say we must decentralize? When you empower people, when you give people voice, there can be nothing better than giving voice to people. That's where decentralization, we argue at the time, will do. To give voice to the people. They will make mistakes, we said. No doubt. That the administrators will make mistakes. And so when we read President Tolbert Lewsom, we went to see the Minister of Agriculture. Very early 1978, after all the research, after all the assessment, every major paper written about Liberia between 1976 to 1980 we read. Every major policy paper we read. Because we were told that through we party were vicious. And you must be able to dot the I's and cross the T's, or else you will be murdered in the morning. And so 1978, we decided to approach the Minister of Agriculture, the lady who had responsibility for food. We had a very nice conversation, and she said, you should go to see the Assistant Minister of Planning in the Ministry of Agriculture. The young brother, I think our own generation too, the Peking too wanted to prove that he too was knowledgeable and that nobody was pushing over. That. I mean, the conversation was not friendly at all. Very hostile conversation we both kept. We went back to see him. We met with him about 3-4 times, talking about the food, sending letters here and there. But let me bring you up to date about something, because I hear some people in this place keep talking about it. I think between March and April 1978, we wrote the Ministry of Justice and the President of Liberia to have a political meeting in this very hall. In this hall. This hall. And we asked the President, just in case the pavilion is booked, please let us use City Hall. We got no reply from the President. We got no reply from the Minister of Justice. And the day we asked to hold meeting in this hall, the True We Party brought battalion into the city. They brought the army for the first time out of the barracks. They brought the army from Camp Nama, from Camp Ramrod, from Todi. They brought them and they shut this hall down, this hall. This historical hall was denied to the people. Mr. Chairman. They just shut us out. But who said they can't have meeting in our place? The Centennial Memorial Pavilion became their place. Early 1978. But what was troubling, you didn't reply us, but you brought army. I watched the young people in CDC. I watched the young people in the National Patriotic Party. Please give me 1 second. Let me talk to you why I make this conversation with the commission. To fight power game, you got to know the rules. To play power game, you honor obligation to learn the rules and learn it well. Because the people you'll be meeting, they are crafted, very brilliant people. I just want you to know that. Because when I see CDC people every day, when I see MPP case every day, I always say, now that look like power. Yeah, I would do my hair like that, you know. They look like us. That's how we used to be. Yeah. People told us we have no place in this place. That we have no right to be here. And the only reason they told us that, Mr. Chairman, because we're native people children. We're poor people children, oh man. But why they can't find something to do? And mind you, they might not ask you where you study in school and you might not call some different thing. But you can't teach. But why you don't go and teach? But how come you're not doing little agriculture? They want to define what is good for you. My father, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father. I show millions of fathers throughout the land and breadth of our country told their children what they can do, and they told them that sky is the limit. They told them. Anyone that I've seen in my life, I tell them every day, you are good. I love you. My own children, my relative children, they're the pride and joy. If you were to get to see any of my kids this morning and you'd say something to them, say, Bikala told me, you're not telling me something new. Because I told them they have to be competitive. That I'm born in a place that was not friendly to me and to my friends. 1978. We had all of 1978, Mr. Chairman, up and down with True We Party. Up and down. Communication. We did something else, Mr. Chairman. There's nobody of significance in the town we didn't talk to. We had no problem walking in somebody's house or office to just question them, what do you know? Because it was important to us. We're outsider, man. We knew we were outsider. We knew we were truly in a strange territory. We knew that. And so we wanted to understand what it was all about. 1978. 1978. 3 times in 1978, we decided to hold public meeting, PAL, 3 times. The True Party turned her down, and they didn't only turn her down from the hall, they brought the army. Late 1978, the first political party meeting that was held in this town from 1956 to 1978, the meeting we had was the first opposition meeting held in this place. And guess where it was held? Guess where? On the beach, Coconut Plantation. On the beach, 1978. 1978. You want to tell me all the public building in a town? I thought, and we started asking among ourselves, but I thought this government said they want opposition. But for them, the True Party government did not draw a line between political party, True Party, and the government of Liberia. In fact, they were one and the same. We had a meeting, and President Talbot, the security told President Talbot, we had a meeting on the beach, and there were guns on the beach. 1978. We met with President Talbot, and he said, you know, I get a report, you get guns. But you know, you can't do nothing here, you know, wherever little gun you get. 78. The 2 points I'd like to make. The people that work in our security services and you are dealing with that very question today. The police. We are organizing the police. We are organizing the armed forces of Liberia. What is the mission of the new army after 14 years of war? What is the mission? Philosophically, what is the army supposed to do? The army of 2008. I understand some foreign people are organizing this army. What do they know about the sociology, the anthropology, the history of Liberia to constitute our army? What do they know about us? Then I hear say the police this, the police that. Who constituted the police? What the police supposed to do? What's their mission? What's the purpose? (1978). They brought the army on us because we want to have meeting in this room. The true army at us. We pull back. We're not ready. No, we're not ready. After the time when we had a meeting in Coconut Plantation, by that time we are organized power in every neighborhood in this town. Every neighborhood in this town had what we call area committee. Mr. Chairman, we work 24 hours non-stop in this town. Oscar Queer, DK Wanselier, we decided we'd take another large county from the True Party, and we took Nima. We wanted to teach them a lesson very badly. We wanted to rub their noses in the sand so they would know that power belongs to all. We wanted them to know that politics or the whole power game was full-time. It was not only about eating money, taking people money, arresting people falsely, lying up and down. There's a definition of governance that I want you to know, Mr. Chairman. It says, strong state. Strong state. Accountable to a citizen under the rule of law. Governance. There are several definitions. As you go through the literature, you will find. For this discussion, I want you to focus on that piece for a while for me. Strong state, accountable to a citizen, under the rule of law. So what is the law? What is the law, Counselor? What did they say about forming political parties? What did they say? What should be the behavior governing political parties? Prior to 1986 Constitution, what was the law? I'm not even worried about 1986. What was the law that governed the behavior of political parties prior to 1986 Constitution? What was the law? Because it's important for you to know, because you may in no time you will say, well, they violent, they acted outside the law. But what is the law? It's important for this commission. Because for me, I'm hoping that when the commission job is done, you will help us to understand what is happening to our country. You will help us to understand the place of the Constitution. You will help us to understand how we do business as a government. You will help us to understand what is the role of the political parties. How should they behave? So 1978, we decided we'll get an office. There's a man, he was involved in diamond business. May his soul rest in peace this morning. Timothy Frank. Mr. Frank said he worked with Nadesir Branel and other people in 1956. He said they killed them. And he said his way of mourning, of grieving, would be to give Paul his house. If the place, I stopped there this morning. I stopped at Paul's office this morning. I stopped at the mass grave of the power people that were dumped there. I went there to say, I will tell your story. (1978), around October, November, all the ministries were preparing annual reports. And our people at the Ministry of Agriculture informed us that, the minister recommending rice increase. The Oma increasing the rice. So when we heard that, well, right around that time, please let me step by. All the area committees came together, and I was asked to serve as the general coordinator of PAL Monrovia branch. So I took a seat on the leadership table of PAL. When we got the word that the old man had recommended price increase, I convened a meeting of all the area committees. That meeting, we considered one item: food policy. That's all the meeting was about, to discuss food policy. December 1978. The Monrovia branch of the Progressive Alliance of Liberia convened. We invited the leaders of the Central Committee, Mr. Matthews, Mr. Quia, D.K. Wanselier, Samuel Doki, D.K. Wanselier, Domite Sao from Bonn, and all of our men around the country. And Nyempan from Sino, we brought all of them in. We wanted to have a conversation among ourselves. I recall at the end of that meeting, we decided that we will hold a demonstration. I was instructed by the Central Committee to ensure that the demonstration take place. My mandate was clear: let the demonstration happen. December 1978. Then we went back into outreach, talk to people in government, talk to people in business, talk to people in the True We Party. Went back to Minister Florence Chenaway. At the time, the current president of Liberia, Mr. Salif, was Deputy Minister of Finance. She was B person too. B person in the True We Party. Yes. 1978. We ran this conversation with school. We went to LU library, just talking to people to understand the issue better. So we wrote Minister of Justice Oliver Bright to grant us permit to demonstrate, to take our request to President Talbot and the True We Party. Because by that time, we have learned a thing or two about how this government, or the True We Party government, how it does business. And so we took our letter to Mr. Bright, provided a covering letter, and sent it to President Talbot. The letter we sent to President Talbot, we asked for a meeting. We asked for a meeting to meet with the president and the government. The president agreed to meet with us on March 25th, 1979. March 25th, 1979. PAL constituted a 25-man delegation. At that time, we called our delegation the People's Delegation. It was comprising of people from the civil society, from our party, and people who have interest in the issue. The President Talbot brought to that meeting Mrs. Helen Johnson Sirleaf, his Deputy Minister of Finance. She attended that meeting. Oliver Bright, Florence Chenaway, Richard Henrys, Frank Talbot, the stars of the True Party were there. March 25th, 1979. At the end of that meeting, President Talbot told us, or told a meeting, that he understood the concern of the delegation. He said, I will get back to you. Let it be known that the recommendation from the Ministry of Agriculture is just a recommendation. We trusted the president. We had a handshake with the gentleman. Because I must say quickly, President Talbot had treated Powell with respect. And whenever he tells us something, we honor it. From March 25th to April 4th, we didn't get a word from Oliver Bright, we didn't get a word from Florence Chenaway, and we didn't get a word from the president of Liberia. Matthew and I sneaked into the president's office. We went to the mansion. We told the people that were there we wanted to see the president. The president agreed to see us. We went. He looked at Matthew, he looked at me, and he said, do you understand that the people that producing rice or importing rice need to make some profit? And Matthew said, yeah, Mr. President, we do. And I asked him, I said, Mr. President, so how much profit is supposed to make? He said, Khan, your father is a farmer. You don't want so we change the way he working? I said, yeah, Mr. President, but not the way you're doing it. Because nobody reached us, Mr. President. We get rolled. By that time we have read the literature now. We were very solid, very confident on the literature, on the books. I said, no, not the way you're doing it, no role, nothing there. So, my father, I don't expect my father's condition to change, Mr. President. And then during the meeting, Matthew said, Mr. President, who stands to benefit from the proposed price increase? He said, Mr. President, we have a listing of all the people that are importing rice to Liberia today. The number one importer is Daniel Talbot, your brother. He said, Mr. President, we have a listing of all the rice producers. The number one producer happen to be you and your friend J.T. Philip and all of y'all. So y'all. President Talbot got up. He got up. You could see his face. And he walked out. He came across, he came around the table. Around the table. And he said, he was shaking. And I said, Mr. President, we trust you. You've been fair to us. You've been firm. Please do something about the rice. And then he put his 2 hands. He gave me the center of Matthew and myself. He put his hand on my shoulder. He put his hand on Matthew's shoulder. And he said, I will do everything that in my power to get the issue resolved. We shook his hand for the second time. We thought we were making a gentleman agreement again. April 4th, 1979. Mr. Chairman, why am I going through all of this? Because there is the thinking in this town that poor people were reckless. That these boys were just troublemaker. Please let me say, no, we're not. And if you decide to do a good work, and you take the profile of the guys in power, each and every one of them, take each of them, run through their life over the last 30, 40 years. There's no spot on our skin about force, about the use of force in this country. No spot. We, the poor people, including those that are lying in the graveyard on Center Street, those that were buried in Temple Village, the police threw them there, and the only crime they committed was because they were power members. They killed them. Those that dominate Bank, took on the beaches, Greenville, the sprinkler sand on, the only crime they committed was because they were power members. Those who were jailed in Camp 4 or in Saniquele or in Lamco area or beaten in Lamco area, the only crime they committed was because they were power people. We, no time, Mr. Chairman, try to force anything in this town. We follow the law. Now, if somebody in this room sitting and listening to the radio say that you commit a crime to abide by the Constitution, then I submit to you, Mr. Chairman, I commit crime. If somebody on this panel, if somebody in this room, if somebody sitting somewhere in the country say power people commit a crime because they follow the law, then we submit. I respectfully say to you, Mr. Chairman, we did not. We follow the Constitution to the letter. We follow the Constitution to the letter. After April 4, after our meeting with the president, we drew some conclusions. We left that room believing that President Tolbo's mind was made up and there will be price increase. We got to Gertie Street, our PA's office. After all the analysis and all of that, we wrote President Tolbo a letter asking President Tolbo to accept a $20,000 contribution to do research on our food policy. We said to the president that he did not have sufficient evidence that the research, that the formulation of our food policy, that the logic was faulty. We concluded the president's logic for increasing the price of rice was faulty. And we wanted him to reconsider the idea that we asked him to employ people, to recruit people, to bring people to study the food policy of Liberia so that we can all make progress, including him. In a few days, we got a letter of rejection from the president that they would not accept our contribution. At that time, Oliver Bright had issued the first order to shoot and kill if any child is found in the street. Oliver Bright, the Minister of Justice, my Attorney General, decided that he will shoot me for abiding by the law. Oliver Bright. Remember something? The luxuries you have today was never there, my people. Everything that resembled radio in this town was controlled by the True We Party. Everything that looked or smelled like newspaper in this town was controlled and managed by the True We Party. Whether Liberian Age, Liberian Star, the Inaugural, the Bento Times, you name anybody in this town. Everything that was newspaper in this town was controlled by the True We Party. In fact, the only radio station in this town, they were two. ELBC, owned by the government of Liberia, and ELWA, a Christian radio station. So how come these boys who have no means, how come they beat them? The people have radio, they have television. The man who spoke for 2 days in this place yesterday, he was government announcer. Yeah. Government announcer. This guy who bowled this town yesterday. Government announcer. The government controlled the media then. Today, through radio, all sort of radio stations are now here. You should look back and smile and say, well, I guess we made a little progress then. With all the radio stations you get here and all the newspaper you get here, you can write anything. You can say, well, look, but we come a long way, right? So Oliver Bright issued orders. Then, seamlessly, the Minister of Education issued order that no child will go in the street for the demonstration. He has showed the president. Shamelessly. Easter. This holy day. This holy day was coming. People were trying to organize themselves for Easter. And here were PAL people organizing to do this work. We reconvene again. The Central Committee of the Progressive Alliance of Liberia, we reconvene, and we decided to step up our outreach. And my assignment was to see two people. Tomo Reeves, George D. Brown. We have been in contact with Bishop Brown from the time Matthew arrived here. Bishop Brown, Reverend Reed, a lot of people. And Bishop would say, so come, what is it that you think you will do a two-way party? Why don't you just find one little scholarship and just go away? Please forgive me for stopping. My boss man just arrived. You know. Welcome, Mr. Pierre. We went out, Matthews, Queer, all these guys, to talk to people. As a principal organizer, I was getting nervous. Getting very nervous. Because when you listen to the radio or you watch TV, you panic. The government was issuing shoot to kill orders. I think it was April 12, Matthew, Sawyer, Fambule met. I think somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was in the cemetery, to review everything that was happening. And the fundamental question was asked, what is it that we'll do now? I can say we have it. After that conversation, the bottom line was the demonstration will take place. Oliver Bright was hot. The police force at that time was refurbished. They had recruited a lot of the young people into the riot mood. They trained them to fight riot, to fight, do like this demonstration business, to quiet riot, and they were hot. They gave them cars, they gave them new uniforms, they get their plane, they think they were New York police, acting hot. Oliver Bright said, anything that you see in the street that shakes, shoot it. That March, that April 12 meeting between Matthew, Sawyer, and Fambule, I didn't attend the meeting, but when they came from there, they said the meeting didn't go well. April 13, I remember having a meeting with Queer and Matthews. I asked both Mr. Queer, the Secretary General, who was my boss, and Mr. Matthews. I said to them, to train and prepare a revolutionary to bring somebody to your caliber, it's hard. It's hard. It takes time to train people for statesmanship. And so, you guys should not come to Garden Street. I will take over the leadership at Garden Street, and we'll march from Garden Street to the executive mansion, and you can join us. I will send the word to all the guys who may want to be there. I still recall in an emotional way, Queer hugged me and he said, you sure that what you want to do? He said, your mother only child, you know. I said, but that's the reason I want to do it. Matthew looked at me a long time. He reached out to me. He shook my hand. He reached his hand. I shook his hand. And the meeting was over. We had a deal. We are getting ready now for showtime. Yeah. The areas committees of power, how you were raised at the time. Monrovia was about maybe 400,000, you know, and the police say they will shoot at 400,000 people. We were worrying at that time about a couple of things. Some people said, but we can go to court. If they deny us the permit, why don't we go to court? And Mr. Chairman, part of your work as this Truth Commission, please pay attention to the justice system. Please do everything, as America, as Britain, as any nation of goodwill, to help us fix our justice system, so that we can recruit independent people to the hall, people who have guts, people who have nerve and the intelligence to administer the law. You don't need flunky in the court. If we do not take time with that piece of our life, we have another round of 14 years. We must find a way to reconstitute the court. And some bum said, why you can't go to court? Jimmy Pierre was presiding over the court, the Supreme Court. Jimmy Pierre was one of those notorious Attorney General of Liberia in prosecuting opposition. And power must go before the Pierre court to act for justice. You think we crazy? We must go to the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court, please let us demonstrate small, you know. Imagine. We control the force. Politics is about force, my friend. We had a force. My friend Gabriel Matthews used to say, we have the hair count. We could beat the True We Party any second after April 14. We were good. We were knowledgeable. We were smart. We had a lot of energy. And we didn't make a secret. No secret about that. They knew we would beat them. And they decided that we'll be intimidated at all costs. They will shoot a couple of bodies, and if the gunshot hit Oscar Kuya, so be it. Matthew, forget that. Their mind was cleared. We have picked up, there was nothing in this town between 1978 and 1979 that we did not know. You have a meeting 9 o'clock, by 9:50 we knew where you concluded. That's how good we were. Politics is full-time, guys. All of you guys who are doing political party work, and you think, and the job we need empowerment, no. I have a gentleman, he told us something, and I will let you know that. April 14 came. So, the night of April 13, that we, our poet, have walked the Ministry of Justice over and over, George Brown over and over, Tomo Reed over and over, name every person of significance in the town, in the church, was trying to get involved to stop the crisis. Oliver Bright, he will not hear. We issue one thing. The Progressive Alliance of Liberia will now go to court to seek permit to demonstrate. We issue a policy statement. We issue in that statement that the Progressive Alliance of Liberia will demonstrate 3 p.m. will be on the grounds of the Executive Mansion at 3 p.m. to present a formal request to the President and the True We Party not to increase the price of rice. That's all we say. That night, may his soul rest in peace. We are getting Mr. Quia out of the whole facility because that area was infiltrated by all the police, all the security people. If we are talking about Gaida Street, the graveyard, Rana Street, what they used to call Cooper Farm, where they have the UN area, all the offices, the security people, because NBI was right there when you climb the hill, when you go in Merkley Street, you're right there. The entire security network was brought to force, and they descended on Gaida Street. Some of them claim to be members of power. And those that we know will come to you and we tap you on the back and say, Bingy, this is a rough business, don't do this, don't do this. Oh yeah, we blew their covers too. We blew their covers. O'clock, our post show up at Power's office. This gentleman, Mr. Quia, was not comfortable leaving me in harm's way. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the guidance. Thank you for the help. Our report came, he was looking for power leadership. I didn't know Mr. Quia have come back. I told the guy, I don't want to talk to our report. He can start talking them. Talk about their mind made up. And Oscar showed up. And our report showed up. Providence. Very good coincidence. And our report said, Quia, the president need your assurance that power will cut the foolishness off. Quia said to Abapo, we will. If we get the president to move the police, we will. He said, I will take you to Mr. Talbot. By that time, every official of significance in this town, they have fled. They fled this town. All the people that were pretending to be government officials, they ran with their pants down. No spine. They fled this place. Our people tried all night. This guy was running, going to Bento, going to the mansion to get to the president. And he said, look, Mr. Port, pal, the operation is good to go, okay? We're good to go. And so when you say we should cut a demonstration or 12 midnight, okay, we'll cut it off. We send word to our people from 12 midnight to about 6, 7 o'clock that morning, that when you hear a gunshot goes off, that's the only time you move from your place. Wherever you are, stay. Don't move. There's a man in this place, they call him Wilfred Clark. Was supposed to have been one of the security guru in this town. There was a thing we used to do, we call it cell. And cell, little some, little something to, get the word out. But Wilfred said he saw that word in the Communist Manifesto. And when you talk about cell, it's about underground activities. And Paul was employing that tactic to go underground. And Wilfred Clark wanted to know. He wanted to know. At that time, Vanning Dempster was at the height of his career as a policeman. One of Liberia's finest policemen. There was this kid, we were all friends in high school, very smart kid, Gabriel Scott. He graduated from CWA. Gabriel Scott. We all graduated from high school 1972. Gabriel, he came from the other side. They chased him, he went away, he got a degree, police science or something. He got a little something, he came back looking good. The kid was looking good. They brought in one Jeroy, the boy from B.W. Harris. And he said too, he was a policeman. Yeah. But we learned things too. They had the police, we have our men in the police. So at least we knew what they were trying to do. The Progressive Alliance of Liberia, let me say, Mr. Chairman, we recruited day and night. We recruited. And our research, our effort revealed that Liberia were ready to flip the page. April 14 finally arrived. About 6 o'clock, I think, between 6:30, I saw this boy approaching Greater Street, approaching Powell office. They call him Henry Boema Fambule. This boy, I saw 1968 crying to see his father was being tortured on this center street. I said, this is my friend. And since 68, I had not seen him until that morning. I finally saw my friend. But the information I had was such that I couldn't let Boema stay there again. The atrocity that was in the making was huge. And the True We Party would love to inflict pain on the state. I ran to him. I said, Pete, you ready, man? He said, come. I need the itinerary. He said, we got to go. I said, no, Boema, you ain't going nowhere. He said, what is that now? The demonstration canceled? I said, no. You find your way to the executive mansion ground 3 p.m. I will be there. The word was out that every power person will not mind will show to the executive mansion and will be there 3 o'clock. We sent out the word that every power person, the cadre, needed to come to Garden Street because I was there. That was the command center. Six at the beginning. They brought this army truck from Todi. On that truck was Thomas Westside. Was Henry Zuo. Was Thomas Koyoba. They came and they posted them in the cemetery and they took their seat. And they started bringing the army, man. Then begin, you got to have your nerve, man. It was tough. I mean, I was sweating. Sit down, these boys will kill the money. There's a guy, we went to gas school for 4 or 5 years. You know, where they have Ministry of Labor. Across the street there used to be a government school. That is the school I went to. From 2nd grade, they were stopping at 6th grade. When you graduate from 6th grade, then you go find someplace else to do. And I met a kid. And they both were big in the CID. Samuel Gay came to me. He said they will shoot you this morning. Be careful. May his soul rest in peace. Marco Bober came and Marco said to me, so, well, I made it that I'm dead. He said these people will do something this morning. What will you do? So I asked him, when you saw West Side? He said, let me look around because the army just came. The police started to truck the air parliament too now, begin. At nerve to nerve now. It was about 7:38. The place was getting crowded. Very, very, very crowded. I think about 8:50, 8:30, Joy Brown arrived. He said, come. This is not a good day for our country. I said, tell me, Bishop. He said, you need prayer. I know that, Bishop. So pray for me. He said the sign of the cross. And I asked him, so Bishop, I'm okay now? Reverend Reed sent somebody to Power Office to see if I was okay. I had a very good friend in Firestone, Dr. Trapp. Trapp was one of Liberia's finest medical doctors, you know, eye specialists. Well, our good friend. So he came. All of our friends concluded that I would be in the heat of that confusion that was taking place. There's a guy in the police, he was the deputy director of police, they call him Johnson. I don't remember the other name, but the true party people who live in the state know the name. Or better yet, you can check the police record 1979, who was deputy police director. Deputy police director for operation. He came, he brought a truck, load of police. He said, if this place is not vacated immediately, it will be rough. And one of our guys said, Bati, oh, Bati. Then I said to him with a smile, I said, so were you ready to kill? Is that what would be rough? And when I approached him, upon my oath, that whole place was quiet. I said, Johnson, we're not leaving here. We're not. Greater Street, the place we occupied, there's something about the place. Mr. Chairman, it was public, it was private property. Powell office, the area we covered, was private property. We had a right to be there. We moved every Powell person that was in the general facility to come and squeeze on Powell property. We knew if we touched the street, we would be violating the law. And this Johnson guy came to talk tough to me. Said, and I asked him, I said, so the police thing you're doing, you don't learn book? You know law? How can you begin be man in the police, you know law? You know law, then you say you be policeman. He was pissed. All the guys started clapping and started yelling. A lot of we are put flame on them. They were trucking police, man. And Michael came back to me and said, well, I both finally play. That's it. Both finally play. The meeting said, don't be afraid. It will be tough this morning on this ground. No policeman will shoot here. We have wrestled the military for the government. Yes, sir. We have defeated the government on that count. You want to operate the armed forces of Liberia with a tint, with a bias? Do you know what you're doing? Consider the army question as you put together this TRC business, oh man. When you construct the agenda for Liberia for the next 30, 40 years, you better pay attention to the military piece. Let me raise for you another question. Who were those Liberians that were being recruited to the armed forces of Liberia? Who were they? They were Crown, they were Gio, they were Lomans. Nine out of 10 members of the armed forces of Liberia came from those 3 tribes. And you say you organizing a national army, and you say when you have high school education, you will not be admitted to the army. And you say, this army will protect you. What kind of business is that? What kind of people are these? This is a tough business, Mr. Chairman. It's a tough business. The army came, and Thomas Westside brought the army out. You know the story. I don't need to go there. You know the story. The army took the day off. The police were left in the middle of the road. Bishop Brown said, "Come, so what will you do?" I told him, Bishop, last night, Mr. Pope came here and told us not to demonstrate. Then I laughed and I said, so Bishop, look now, Bishop, look. You see, if you leave from here today, go back on Garden Street and you see the sewer, you know that place, the dirty water run? They are just building. And the water we got was that the police would put the poor people in our water and drown them. And so what we did, we moved our guys away from the drainage to get space. Because the police, we are cranking ourselves up that the police will not come from behind, or they only have to come to the front. Being so stupid. Stupid boys. They came to arrest. And what we did that morning also, they did not see Oscar Queer. They did not see Gabriel Bacchus Matthews. And we locked all the door to Powell office. And they immediately concluded that Matthew was in the building. And they ordered to open fire on the building. They ordered that the chairman, the secretary general, and all those damn power people just shoot them. Yes. It was rough. It was rough. But they were not there. So our guys in the security network told us, you got to find a way to get Matthew all of that place. Deacon, you got to do something. The chairman in there. I said, yeah, it's okay. He'll be safe. We'll be safe. Bishop working on something. Our people working on something. Because we were afraid, we thought it could, every police or every security person is a double agent. They bring you news and they carry news. And we master that. And Bishop called Oliver Bright, called the president. I just want to say this morning, thank you, Judge Brown. Thank you for everything. There's a bishop, there's a priest that came from Foya. An Episcopal priest. He said, Bishop, they need prayer. Let's pray for them again. And so he led a prayer. And Bishop said, let me call Oliver Bright again, the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Liberia. The Attorney General of Liberia supposed to be the people's lawyer. We lost that one. Couldn't get my Attorney General. So Bishop Brown said, Con, by that time now, when you look in the graveyard, get the street side, the police, the army, by that time, the war was out. And our people start to approach Garden Street. At that time, we have put the cell operation in swing. The police were moving too fast on us, and we had to stop them. So the war went out. The position Broad Street, Ashmore Street, every major street, our people moved there. The cell was in motion. This policeman came back. The deputy director for operation came back. And he stepped on Paul's ground, this consecrated ground, the people's place. And I asked him, could you just leave this place so that we will have peace? He pulled back. Jeroy Riches came loaded, and they opened fire on our office. The first gunshot that went off April 14, Mr. Chairman, was fired by the police. The police that came to order the arrest were pushed into the Sony. By that time, Bishop Brown had moved me out. The cadre had covered me out. I had to get out of there because we didn't want the command to break. It would be broken if they take me away. They opened fire, Pingy. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. They opened fire. They opened fire. There's a man that I want you to find, Mr. Chairman. Benson Barr. He's a medical doctor. Part of our preparation for this day, we put in place some quasi-medic that maybe somebody who need to drink, who, by 10 o'clock that morning, when Bishop took me and I came back on Kerry Street, there was some pharmacists that were there. And Benson Barr and I had agreed to meet there. I wanted Benson to have some money to buy drugs or all kind of stuff. And so when Bishop took me and the police were moving, nobody knew me. So I told Bishop, if I stay with you, they will kill me. I can't stay with you. Our cadre moved me from Bishop. So we left the Episcopal. He took me to Episcopal Church. But I concluded that the police could raid the church. The heartless police, they would raid the church. The government that had no conscience would raid the church. I met Benson Barr right here. Benson, medical doctor, MD. When he saw the movement, he said, I'm moving the center to JFK. Something will happen here today. I said, for true doctor? He said, yes. So he moved. The little Babati operation we have put together, he moved it to JFK. It became our trauma unit. It became our trauma unit. It became our emergency center. Benson Barr. I hope he is living today. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the effort. Benson Barr and a group went to JFK that morning of April 14, Mr. Chairman. They did not leave until 1 week later. Nobody would go to work. Whatever little doctor or nurse, group of nurses that were there, they were there. That was it. More so when they observed the violent reaction of government. Benson Barr stayed at John F. Kennedy April 14, 15, 16, 19. I think I got arrested by April 20. Yeah. By that time, that Monday, all the government officials then that ran from this town, chicken up, they started to come by and start to make statements acting that good government official then. They decided now they can be government official. It's safe now. And so they came back to the city and they started to issue some strong statement now. Every true We Party person started, they started dusting all their old 1956 resolution, their speeches, started dusting their paper, and they came to town. And the word was, arrest them, live or dead or alive. $25,000 for this one, for that one, Matthew, Quia, Marcus Don, Mason, Famule, Tibote, all these, it was rough, it was a difficult time. The joke I thought was, Drew Mason was in Sino doing some family thing, they arrested his butt and they brought Drew to Monrovia and said, you cannot be in Sino and you say they brought everyone they threw her into jail. And I think around the 19 or the 20 of Benson Bar left. I know there are a lot of people in this town who will talk about how many people died or how many people got hurt April 14. I know there are a lot of people in this town who will talk about loss of properties. I know one name, Mr. Chairman. Benson Bar. Benson Bar.
Can I just interrupt you a little, Mr. Witness? I beg your pardon.
Please.
There's an accident out there. A truck has hit a green Jeep, license plate 8318. The police is requesting, just in case, if the person is in here, you should please proceed outside. Thank you very much. I'm sorry and thank you.
Thank you. If you heard that, please go out there and give some help. Thank you. So, like I said, there are people who will talk about this and that. Benson Bar. And the reason I say so, Mr. Chairman, the report issued by the government of Liberia through the Minister of Health, Dr. Kate Bryant, her first report on the crisis was 79 people got killed. That was a report of Kate Bryant. That was the initial report released by government. A lot of when she went by, the government people gave her some beating, then she reduced it to 41 or somewhere like that. Two or 3 days later, Mr. Chairman, families went to President Talbot. They wanted to receive their body. They wanted to bury their children. And the True We Party decided that if relatives, friends buried their own, it would be disruptive to the society. That the government of Liberia will bury them. And guess what? Guess what, oh man? President Talbot and the True We Party decided that they will bury Pal people in a mass grave across, to the back of gender ministry. Then where they buried them in a mass grave. Behind gender ministry, the Pal people were buried there. What I want you to know, Mr. Chairman, the president and his people decided to teach Pal a lesson, to rub our faces in the mud. And so they brought them on our doorstep to abuse us, to humiliate us. They buried them in a mass grave on our doorstep. And somebody in this country say, Pal brought the confusion, and Pal should apologize. Mr. Chairman, what's the true meaning of this commission? What the commission is supposed to do? Is a commission to help us heal? Is that what the commission is about? To help us heal? When a nation goes through, say, the April 14 crisis, or the 14, 15 years of war, with all the atrocity, people go in shock. They are stressed. There's disconnection. Because in that process, Mr. Chairman, they have difficulty to grieve. They cannot move. Mr. Chairman, I know a thing or two about that. I've never got to move my father. My mother got killed too. I never moved her, oh man. I'm blind in this eye, Mr. Chairman. I never get a chance to just stop and look. I was moving. And somebody say, they bury the Pal people on our doorstep. Of all the land in this town, the only place President Talbot and the True We Party could find, using Frank Talbot's word, they buried them in our living room. Then they jailed us. Boy in jail. I remember it was about 575 people that were placed in South Beach Prison, Mr. Chairman. The number we got in terms of death was about 300. But we decided to do one thing, Mr. Chairman. We decided that the government of Liberia report says 79, that was just too many. And so we're not going to go into no argument with them. We'll stay with the government number. We, the members of PAL, we have unflinching commitment to stay within the rules. And I believe this morning, let me confess, that's why we defeated the True We Party. They were not disciplined. Their own rules, begin, they couldn't keep it. Their own rules, they could not keep it. So, I guess they played what they had. They had a radio. They had a TV. When they arrested all the power leaders from around the country, then they went on a blast. The Liberian Age, the editorials. Read again, you have the resources, my friend. All the partner you get, ask them. And they give you some money to go do some research. Go find the Liberian Age, find that newspaper. If I say all of April 1979, the Liberia Star, find it. 1979, all of April. There are other stories that came out later on in the month, but those for 2-3 weeks of April 79, or the last 2 weeks of April 79, read them. Find them. Whether it's the Bento Times, whether it's the, what the other Kabati paper, a lot of them. But go do the research. And I'm inviting you not to power position. I'm inviting you to read what the government wrote. That's why I'm asking you to read. Read what the government say. Officially, this is the first edition of the Progressive Alliance of Liberia on this crisis. This is, we documented after we came from jail. We produced what we call April 14 area. I think that paper, because we took recess beginning, we took recess. After all that confusion, we went to prison. Then I will bring you back to the prison question, but we agree after July 4th that we will all take recess. So we disappear. Every power person disappeared from this town. Because we concluded that the government will use the presence of some power person, they will shoot you, and they will say you want overthrow or something. And so we disappear between July, all of August. There's something that I want you to know here also. We have made friends with a gentleman, a practicing lawyer, Joseph Chesson. Chesson agreed to serve as our lawyer. For about 3 years or so, Chesson provided legal service to us. Chesson was mentioned as one of the most ruthless Attorney General of Liberia. Very ruthless opposition party. Joseph Chesson served as Attorney General of Liberia, now Minister of Justice. So we got him to be our lawyer. And we got Chesson because we thought he understood the corny business. You know, true about it, people? They were tricky. They master all the Bible laws in a place. They master it. And we thought Chesson would be the man to confront them. And then sadly for us, April 14 came. The government ordered power people to be arrested. After that Saturday, that Sunday, Monday, I think Tuesday, Bacchus, Matthews sent a word to Chesson that he wanted to see President Talbot. President Talbot agreed to see Chesson. And Chesson went to the mansion to meet with President Talbot with Matthew there. He turned Matthew over to the president and asked for the president's assurance that Matthew's rights will be protected. The president agreed. The president said to Matthew, quote, "You better cooperate. Matthew said, yes, Mr. President, I will cooperate. He said, you better damn well cooperate. President Talbot was mad then, my friend. The guy who record as peacemaker, as progressive, it was under close scrutiny, my friends. He said, you better damn well cooperate. He ordered the security, get him out of here. And Chesney fired back to the president and said, Mr. President, I hope Mr. Matthew Rice will be protected. He said, Mr. Councillor, we will do everything we can, honor the law. And Matthew was taken away. By that time, South Beach was crowded. 500 to 600 power leaders from all across the country. And they brought us who were considered, I guess, front row people, and they took us to one of the cells in the back of South Beach. South Beach, they looked at that cell was occupied by the top criminals, the difficult boys. And those boys, they used to toilet on the floor or toilet and dump the feces in the drum. The play was yucky. And they're where they put us. They just dump out there. Wherever you stand in that room, you will step on some shit. Wherever you stand in the room, the boots were all over the place. And we were supposed to clean the place to sit or sleep. The soldiers that were in that cell, most of them were loafer people, Loma guys. There's a guy they call him Mulba Bani. Mulba Loma is fluent. Very fluent, man. My man, the first 12 hours we spent in our cell, damn. What? I went to Mulba. I said, you can't talk. What happened to all the Loma business? The Loma, you can't talk. What happened to the Loma, man? These people, they are people. Talk to them, man. Thank you, Biggie. Thank you for job well done. And he took the soldiers on. Start to talk some serious Loma, man. Because the government had informed the people that were from all the town that were trying to spoil it, to overthrow the government. True, we parties strive over the years on deception and lies. There was no boy in one of those bodies that would tell the truth. Lies and deception. They told the people were foreigners, communists that came to spoil this place. And the officers in that prison were very difficult to approach. And Barney went to work. And he saved us. He saved us. He told us, and they told us, okay, you're clean, you come outside, you may not stay inside, they pour outside. When they hear some B-men coming, then they do that, they're doing their work, then they pour back inside. As soon as they hear some B-men coming, then they pour back. When the B-men leave, they take her out to stand outside. Then after a few days, they move her from that bar prison. And they pour her to another prison. President Talbot went to Chesson. So, before, Gabriel Matthews was taken to NSA while the rest of all 500-600 people were in South Beach Gabriel was taken to NSA. And one morning, there's a guy, they call him Edric. I think he was either the director or the deputy director of, they had some bureau, they say corruption bureau or something like that. And they had constituted an investigation panel. And I think he was one of the lead persons on the panel. On the panel, they had the Shield. They name all of them. You know, only they supposed to be B-men then in the army. And at that time, the top ranking officer in the armed forces of Liberia were American-Liberian, while the rank and file of the army were natives. The rank and file of the security apparatus of Liberia were them. If you fall in a crack, then maybe you have very good grade and they can't help it, then they put you out there. But then they put all their men and honor you. And those boys were hot, man. So Edred and one other person went to Matthews and said to Matthews that he said, Mr. Matthews, he went to Matthews' cell. He said to him, are you ready? Are you ready? He said, are you ready? And Matthew said, ready to do what? He said, oh, okay. And he left. Because Matthew was not ready. Matthew didn't know what to do. That means he ready. So he came back a day or two and asked Matthews, are you ready? This time, he came back to Mr. Matthews with a pen and some papers. Some paper. He said, so Matthew said, I'm ready. He said, good. And I'm saying this so you hear and understand, because for kids that were born say 1980, they are today 19, or that were born say 1979, they're almost 30. None of them will tell you they have heard past story. Not one. So President Tolba, this Edrich guy said, you better, and Matthew wrote a letter. There's a passage of that letter that I let you read. The last paragraph of that letter from Mr. Matthews. I plead that you constitute all of us into a special committee for national reconstruction. His duty may include, as you see fit, the awakening of public spirit for the OU conference, promoting a nationwide all Liberians are one, campaign reassuring business houses that the events of April 14 are behind us and will not be repeated, and with assistance of our associates abroad, a well-ordered public relations campaign to raise high again our country's image abroad. That was the concluding passage of Mr. Matthews' letter to President Talbot. By that time, every True We Party person, operative, they were building, they were hosting meetings, issuing resolutions, condemning everything that look, that smell, that resemble power. President Talbot did something. He immediately President Talbot, he responded to Matthew's letter immediately, the same day. And on May 10, this panel is supposed to have money. You're supposed to have all the resources. You'll go do the homework. President Talbot convened the True We Party, and he had this to say. He said, we remain continually open to new approaches. I have no monopoly over ideas. Let us all join to build the new Liberia. This is why, as we undertake to assess fully the implications of the events of April 14, we have decided to constitute a commission charged with the responsibility of receiving and analyzing suggestions from concerned citizens for the reconstructions of Liberia and submitting recommendations for the attention of government. And I assure you, they will be given speedy attention by government. This commission, you have the resources. Go and find the Nadisia Brownell report. Go and find it. After this, Chesson went to see us, our lawyer. But the True We Party people have decided that Chesson, knowing us, knowing how ruthless Chesson was in the 50 and 60, they decided to recruit him. Oliver Duncan at that time was bad news. He had misled the government. Oliver Bright, bad news. Bad news. Bad news. The government wanted a new justice minister. And the reason for recruiting Chesson, every opposition case, every political opposition case that took place in Liberia between 1960 up to the time the last political case, I believe, of Albert Post and the Prince Brown case, Chesson defended opposition. He had established credibility in the legal community, and the government needed that. They needed it bad. Mr. Talbot needed an Attorney General very badly. So, the president made an offer to Chesson. The offer was considered, and it was accepted by Chesson. Chesson became the lawyer and the Attorney General of Liberia. As far as you were concerned, he just finished with us. He just moved on to a new project. So we're left with no lawyer. And I tell you something, Councillor. Between 1976, beside Chesson, in this town, no lawyer will represent opposition. No lawyer in this town. No lawyer in this town will take on activities of the opposition. And to you young people, sure a lot of you are the different attire shop this morning. If and when you decide to do opposition activities, you got to find your own men. You got to train your own people. That's the lesson we learned with Chelsea walking off on us. He was now our man. There's something else, all of you young people, that I want you to know this morning. The opposition PAL or slide PPP were different. The people who made up of True We Party were people who wanted to make money. They had different interests. They had class interests. Boyman family took you through that. I wouldn't go there because I don't want to do injustice to Boyman stuff. Boyman told you the class struggle in this country. So I wouldn't go there. But I can safely say that people who engage in True We Party, they were different. The people who got involved with PAL were different. Different value system, different belief system. I cannot be sine color. We are different from our parents. We are different from our parents. And True We Party have never had an occasion to deal with that sort of opposition since 1869. We are different. They didn't know how to deal with us. We were young. We had nothing. We were poor. We had nothing in common. Besides the fact that they believe we say we Liberian, and maybe they say, yeah, maybe. Maybe. They didn't even think we were Liberian. As far as they were concerned, we were in their place. We went to one meeting and Reginald Townsend, local, he was then chairman of True We Party. And he local, the Secretary General of PAL, he said, Kwe. he said, Kwe. Lord help us all. He said, Kwe. But where this young Kwe? Where's this? Kwe. Reginald Thompson, chairman of the True We Party. And in that same meeting, Frank Talbot, the senior brother of President Talbot, and President Pro Tempore, he said to us, you mean you're coming in our place? That the mansion you're talking about. Our place. You coming in our place. Anyway. You know, this True We Party business, I'm going through all of this. It may be boring for you, Mr. Chairman, but Commander Wise Jr. said to me the day Dr. Famule was testifying, he said, Deacon, what is wrong with you people telling your part of story? He said, how come you people are not willing to tell the story? And Mr. Chairman, if you want me to, I will take the oath again. Everything I say here, you check it. If your one line is false, charge me perjury. How you call it, pay your lawyer? What's the word? Yeah. Every single thing I say here. We get lawyer. No lawyer. So we started sitting on my said, True We Party people down there, they ruffle. No lawyer. We started to laugh, you know. And we were making fun of it, you know. And one way, Jay, before Matthew published the letter, Boyman family came with some bad analysis begin. Boyman, you know, Boyman had traveled the West African region. And they said there were some opposition activities, and Boyman related that there was a breach in Conakry. And these people said they wanted to overthrow Ahmed Sekou Touré. And they decided to execute them. When they executed them, they hung them on the bridge. On the bridge. And that day, for some strange reason, if you went to South Beach Prison, I don't know if it stayed there, but there's a building, they call it a gallows. You know, they did some hanging here in the early 70s. And all of us, I guess curiosity took us to the gallows. When we saw the gallows, that sight sent chill through our spine. We all went back to the cell. We went to the cell. And then Boyman came with a great analysis. We, all the time we spend in prison, I do not recall the chilly night. There was no day that impacted me than that day. Boyman's description of how they treated the political opposition in Guinea. I recall not too long they released Boyman, took him up. They took up all the guys, they freed them. Matthew had written the letter that I read. President Tolbert had constituted the 31-man Nedesier Branel commission. You may want to know something quick. Nedesier Branel was part of the opposition in 1956, a lawyer. He was treated very badly in prison. I think he spent over 10 years in prison. There's another lawyer they call Billy Harris, opposition. He spent over 10 years in prison. But these men, they have good reputation. So the country respected them. The bar association, the legal, all the people, they respected Nedesier Branel, Billy Harris, Cassell, Abayomi Cassell. These were very knowledgeable lawyers. But most of the cases they did a good bit of opposition cases. They put everything they had, they knew, to oppose the government or to bring out truth for our country. And so today you can now have JPC, all a civil society organization, and all of that. These were able lawyers. I guess they were not looking for money. I like to believe they were looking for the truth. They stood tall, eyeball to eyeball with True We Party. And they knew what it took to oppose the almighty True We Party. Their symbol was the elephant. How many of you have seen elephant? How many people in this country have seen live elephant? You know, when an animal is walking, right? Imagine that thing stepping on you. Imagine through we party stepping on you. You dead. You dead. You dead. They took chasing. Netesye Branel again came and combed the facts. And combed the facts. What led to April 14? And how we can save our country from April 14, or as a result of April 14. And you, Commissioner, if you have not gotten the copy of Netesye Branel report, please find it and read it. I have some here, but I will not read it because you're supposed to do your homework before you call people here. Yeah, I will not read it. It's not disrespect to the commission, but I just want the commission to do its work. We came, Netesye Branel issued his report. President Talbot, we requested President Talbot from prison. He was gracious enough to allow Oscar Quia and Barcus Matthews to meet with him in Bentall. No publicity. They took the prisoners, you know, to go meet with a papi. Yeah. They met the president and some of the people. They had I guess, when Mr. Quia came back to us at the prison, we were so anxious and we just want to hear what the president say. Because we were tired of being JB. I've never been to a police station, let alone jail. So what you say, my man? Oscar acting big and bad now, you know, he gets some strong information. You know, they have separated him from Mr. Matthew. Mr. Matthew was taken back to NSA. And then a few days later, the Branel Commission report was released. And part of that, the recommendation was to release all of us, the leadership of power. June 26, 1979. It's important for you to know, though, that at that time, President Talbot was preparing to host the OAU. There was nothing in this world that would stand between Mr. Talbot hosting the OAU and becoming the spokesperson for Africa. President Talbot wanted it, and he wanted it bad. To be the spokesperson of Mother Africa. And which of us would not like it? Which of us in the political business would not want to speak for this continent, this great continent, this proud land, this rich real estate on the face of this earth? Which of us would not want to be the spokesperson? Here was something we had to. We wanted to get out of jail very badly so that we'll go do opposition. We wanted it, and we wanted it bad. We didn't want for public to lose the sense that we took them to this critical point and we will run away. Or we couldn't afford for the word to be that one of us had been killed, or that one of us changed to true party, because there were a lot of gestures made. So President Talbot released us. And I guess, I don't think it was deliberate. April 27, we went to Gertie Street. You know, with the ex-prisoner now, we went to Gertie Street from jail now. And that day, June 27, 1979. And that day, for some reason, I don't know why, but it just happened. Everyone has some little t-shirt looking nasty up, you know, wearing t-shirt. And President Talbot said, security, they wanted to see us. And we must go to the People Mansion in t-shirt, we're naked. When we got in the office was Speaker Richie Abraham Henrys, Frank Talbot, E. Reginald Townsend, chairman of the party. He was also Minister of Presidential Affairs. No, in fact, the True We Party, yeah, it was Thompson. I think it was Thompson was chairman of the party. And then in our meeting was the very, this guy was new. I later online, very smart man, they call him Dr. Ewudan. A blinding scholar, very knowledgeable. And Ewu was in the office. And Ewu was the note taker. On our side was Gabriel Matthews, Oscar Jai Kuya, Samuel Polyvius Jackson, and Kankalo. We arrived, you know, all the True We Party people, they were seated on the right hand of the president. And we were seated on the left side of the woman. And when we were seated, the president asked the security to leave the room. He asked the press to leave the room. And Gabriel got on his feet. He thanked the president for his goodwill that never has it been done. Political prisoners to be free and be invited, and we're appreciative of the president's offer. And in the middle of Matthew's statement, Frank Talbot stood and he said to the president, "You allow them here again? These same boys, you bring them here again?" I think we spent with President Talbot about an hour. Frank Talbot closed his eyes, and those eyes were never opened until we left that room. He had no use for us. He had no use for us. In fact, by the way, the foreign minister of Liberia, Celso Dennis, was in our meeting. And I'm saying this to say so that just in case historians go do the research, so somebody can't say, you know, that's why I try as much as possible to place people at different meetings I attend. Throughout this conversation, I will be fast tracking, but I will be bringing events that turn the page of our country. The president, we told him that whatever he wanted us to do, we'll do to make sure that OAU is successful. We told him that we decided that we'll suspend all political activities until the OAU is hosted. We left, we went for vacation for 2 months. You know, the native people then got to go back home now, you know, and leave the people of town. This is not our town. Besides Matthew, I guess Matthew was the only one in our group that was from Monserrado. The rest of us from, you know, some of the funny places. So we left Matthew right here with people. And the rest of us went to our places. September 1979. We reconvened. We did two things at the September reconvening of September 1979. We declared the government that we registered the Progressive People's Party, a vanguard party. We wrote President Talbot. Jackson was then the Minister of Justice. And we informed him that we will be coming to him for legal thing. And I went to see him and he said, "Come, but your brother that lawyer?" I said, "Yeah, my brother is a lawyer. But my brother is not the Attorney General of Liberia. You are." Then he laughed. He said, "But come, you don't want to do this thing, you're supposed to have money. How you always do this thing, you don't get money?" I said to him, "But all the money you've been making, and what other money you get you want, man? You make plenty of money, look at your stomach." And we laugh, you know. He said, "All right, you better bring money here next time. You want to or something, then you gotta pay for it, huh? You know." Say, "Anytime we want legal something, we'll come back to you." At the closing, he said, "You better come back before you make some mistake out there." We issued a letter. By that time, we were all over the country again, trying to you know, to just tune the machine, just put some little touch up. We wrote the president that we're back, and we wrote a paper, maybe American Embassy, some of the people find it. The title is The Voice of the Revolution, but that particular title is April 14 area. That's the title. If you don't have it, find it, you'll find it. It's a complete dossier, complete documentation of what happened. April 14 area. That's how we call the edition. It was issued in September. And in our edition, we say we registered the party. And we registered the party in October. I think we said October 11 or something. So, personally, me, I left town. I went to do what I do best. I train, I mobilize, I organize. That's all I know to do, to get things done. That's all I could do to be through with party. Because for me, it was a mission. It was a family mission. And I think it was the mission for other kids that came around. Because it could not have just happened like that. These young kids, they were very bright. Today, Michael Joy, Elisha Tapla, Sando Wayne, all the boys were bright. High school kids, well-disciplined kids. Richie Panto, I mean, you can name them, Gilmoya Flomo, You name them. These boys they were good. They were all in different multilateral high schools around the country. They were very smart kids. And we say we'll organize our party. We will go to court October 11. The excitement was in the air, man. We have our own party. We need to pay attention to True We Party. Like I said to you, we were not our fathers. We're different. We're not looking for jobs. We're not looking to get rich. We wanted change to come, and if and when it comes, we'll be the beneficiary. And we didn't have to steal a dime. I can get some cool water on this. We're not looking to build girlfriend houses. We're not looking to generate new bank accounts. We wanted this country to make a time, to turn a corner. And we concluded that the one and only way to achieve that was to broaden participation, was to promote inclusion and not exclusion, was to create opportunity, broaden the power, put more biscuit on the table. And then you hear some people say, that's also gravy. Gravy? In this place? Me, gravy? And better yet, one time Chipo was talking and somebody said to Chipo, and you want to enjoy the gravy? Chipo said, I cook the gravy. He said, I cook this gravy you're talking about eating, I cook it. I did what nobody wanted to do. Chipo. He was here the other day. We wanted to register our party, Mr. Chairman. We did not have a lawyer because Chesney are gone from us. But we needed a lawyer. We compiled the party papers. I returned to Monrovia with all the signatories from around the country. I think 6,000-7,000 names or so. And at that time, nobody has seen True We Party registration document. True We Party, you know, this country has gone through 3 major experiments, my friend. The first experiment that took place in this place was the light-skinned people. Those landed boys, those traders, who learn, there's a piece thing in our history, the love of liberty brought us here. And those who the love of liberty brought us here were light-skinned people. To a very large extent, they constituted the new republic, 1847. The light-skinned people. By 1868, 1869, the division, the diversity had brought in. And these men and women just did not know how to celebrate diversity. They could not enjoy their differences. they didn't know how to manage differences. And so, by that time, the business class in 1867, 1860, 61, up there, different kind of people start to come from the West Indies, from other places. But these people that were coming were kind of traders. They were all please let me stand corrected, just in case some historian is listening to this stuff I'm talking about. I don't mean harm to do injustice to the literature. But they were different too. They had different interests from the light-skinned people. And they wanted to take over the machine of governance. They wanted to usher in a new regime. And they defeated the light-skinned people. And that effectively came to an end, the first experiment in governance in our country. In 1869, Jeroy was installed president. That was the beginning of the True Whig Party. And the True Whig Party was riding on the popularity that there will be inclusion, that there will be opportunity, that there will be trade, and on and on and on. And as you will note, over the years, they abandoned the cornerstone of the party. They start to stifle progress. They start to reduce the possibilities and opportunities in our country. And because they lost the popularity that they had to resort to new tactics, tricks, lies, deception. And that was the True Whig Party that the Progressive People Party came to face with our lawyer. When we decided to go to court with our lawyer, Matthew and myself, we always comparing notes. Sometimes we laugh at somebody here, we laugh at somebody there. And I told Gabriel, I don't care what you say, I'm going to Chipo. He said, that your man? I said, yeah, that's my man. He said, so what you say to him, Carlo? I say, I'm going to ask the man to represent. Oh, my man, what do you mean? What I would say? I say, I'm looking for a lawyer to carry paper to court. He said, damn. But Chipo was just thrown out, was just impeached by the True Whig Party people. And that's the man you say you want to bring to carry papers to court. I said, okay, Gabriel, if you don't want that, then just give me another lawyer. But I got to take these papers to court. He said, okay, Carlo, all right, okay. Let me know. And two of us parted company. I went to Chipo. We had a talk. He said, Carlo, I don't mind going to court, but I don't have license to practice. He said, but Pinga, you will be a lawyer, you don't get license to practice. He said, Carlo, what's wrong with you? I don't have license to practice. I said, but so what you need to do? He said, well, you know, days, you got to do days, you got to do that. I said, all right, okay, list all the things that I got to do. He listed them, and he listed that I have to get some revenue clearance, and they will issue the license to practice. I had my childhood friend who was in revenue then. They call him Benedict Pine Wilson. Ben had graduated from the University of Liberia, and Ben was almost special assistant to the Commissioner of Revenue. So he went, he found all the things you needed to do, and he went to the Commissioner of Custom. The Commissioner of Custom, he read power paper every time. Ben made sure he gave me a copy. And when we went in, he told Ben, look, there's a paper. He said, but your man get money? Because you know, then he started teaching Ben. He said, you know, you'll never get money. I don't know how you will do the thing here. And Ben came back to me. He said, my man, you get money? I said, yeah, Ben, we get money. We had just published April 14 year. That was the only source of income. The Voice of the Revolution. People will buy the paper from us 50 cents and they'll go sell it $5 some places. That's how hot the paper was on the market. So the money Ben called, I paid for all this stuff, and they gave me my license. I went jumping up. I ran from Ministry of Finance to Garden Street. I was now convinced that the party will be registered now. The one and only obstacle was removed. Chipo became our lawyer. Chipo became our lawyer. And everywhere Chipo went, I put surveillance on him. I didn't want another Joseph Chesson business again. Whoever Chipo talked to, I wanted to know who he talked to. One day, Chipo was going down Macklin Street. This poor man was just driving, and these security people, they just boxed him in. And they start to rough him up. And the cadre were there. Our guys were there. They too started pushing the police, and they boxed Chipo in. Then they moved Chipo from between the police. When they were doing this with Chipo, one of our guys left and came running to Garden Street already. He was not standing there to know what happened to Chipo, what didn't happen. That was not his assignment. His assignment was to link Garden Street to what was happening in the street. They moved Chipo out. They brought Chipo to headquarters, and Chipo wanted to know, Carla, what happened? I said, but you are traveling, and we just want to make sure we're there for you. Chipo was convinced from that day that we made business. We were convinced. If you call Chipo those days, if he didn't see me or hear him around, he said, let's wait for Carla first. Because the operation was sound. We're not guessing. You can't want to do political party work or serious political work and you guessing. What kind of party are you running? You get programmed. You don't know yourself. What's the mission of these parties around here, by the way? And some of them say, every day, I see NPP, I see CDC, I say to the young people, you better learn well. This is a tough business you are in, guys. The road can be muddied. It can be rough. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep those eyes on the prize. Because if you make error, you lost. A lot of time in politics, there's no second chance, my friends. We register. When we got Chipo, we applied to go to court October 11. The day of October 11, James A. Pierre closed down the Supreme Court of Liberia. The entire Temple of Justice was shut down. They shut it down because